So this next podcast is something of it's an audio journal, really, of my own thoughts, reintegrating really after a profound meditation experience that I had last night. So this is one about death and really my experience with anxiety and fear surrounding that concept. So it is a bit sorrowful, but it is cathartic for me to express myself in this way that hopefully other people, whoever is listening to this, might glean something from. So it's a pretty short intro here. I just want to preface the podcast episode with that little note, and with that, I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello. So, yes, in this audio journal, I want to explore death further in my own understanding of it. And this is really kind of an reintegration experience for me after a profound meditation that I had last night. And I began to feel as if I was dying, and I became immensely scared of letting go into that experience of death and where that might take me. I mean, my heart started racing. My mind started wandering. The idea of death at that moment was everything that I didn't want to happen. And through that experience, I was able to, if even for a short period, shift my perspective on how we so often view death as a negative aspect to life. It is this looming presence over all existence that we find all too often so immensely terrifying. And I want to understand more why we feel that way, why this concept of death is so fundamental to how we live our life and the ways in which we operate in terms of orienting ourselves and our psyche to actions in the world. I think there's so much here, and for many reasons, this is a topic of contemplation for me that I have been dealing with for a considerable amount of time, and this is something that bothers me. It bothers me, and I think it is something because it is something extremely salient in my life that I have really began to almost shun because I couldn't handle thinking about it as much as it's almost an oxymoron. Like I think about it so much where I started to I've thought about it. So incredibly interested in it, and because of that, it has become something extremely difficult to handle cognitively. And I want to orient my thoughts in a clear and precise way here. And I think it kind of really started to. I really became interested in death when I started to get into spirituality and meditation and gratitude in life, as not just an action of existence, but as a way of existence, as a way of living and being. And through my experiences, which I won't recapitulate here, but the point being, I became somewhat overwhelmed with how much I wanted to learn about death, and I picked up a book. It's called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, and I started reading it, and I can't even tell you how far I got into it. It's sitting right in front of me right now, and I was in Portland, Oregon, reading this book, and I became extremely anxious, and I'm not an anxious person. I've never been an anxious person, and it's something that I feel deep sorrow for people who deal with this on a daily level, because I have experienced anxiety and I have experienced difficulty in that mental state, and I know it is extremely difficult to deal with, and an immensely powerful state to be under. And I'm not that person. That's not my default mode of operation as a person. I have other default states of operation that I'm not saying are all healthy, but anxiety was never one that I felt was a concern. Luckily, and upon really reading this book and really contemplating non-existence and what that means, non-existence in the sense that this idea of I stops being or stops existing, it became extremely scary for me, and it became extremely terrifying that was even possible, and that not that it was only not possible, that it was coming. It was coming, and that is the essence of the book, is that we are all living on this reality. We are all living in this reality, or this perceived conception that we're not every day, at every moment, on the precipice of no longer being here, no longer existing, that whatever ride we're on no longer will be at some point. And I mean, of course, like, that is such a deep and troubling thought to have. I don't know who wouldn't be afraid of that, or who wouldn't consider that concerning, when we're so ingrained to believe that this sense of myself, this sense of who I am at the core of my essence, is and will be no longer. And I couldn't, at that moment in my life, I couldn't handle that. I couldn't take the thought of no longer existing, and I experienced anxiety. I remember I was at a bus stop on my way back from work, and or from the gym or something, and I experienced an incredible amount of anxiety, and I thought I was going to die there. Clearly I didn't, but it was not. I was not a favorable experience, and it really truly brought to light that I have some serious issues with this. That I have some serious issues with understanding where we go. And what happens after all of this, and I began to become mentally and physically sick. I made myself sick because of how mentally incapacitated I became contemplating these thoughts, and I really worried me. And I had to stop reading this book, and it's a book that I've been eager to get back to, but extremely prudent on allowing it to enter into my consciousness again. And I do believe that it can be something beautiful if I really take this seriously and really try to delve into what death is, and how death isn't something that we need to be afraid of anymore, isn't something that I need to be afraid of anymore. And I'm holding on to these conceptions that I, as an ego, as a self, as my understanding of operating in existence doesn't have to be the way I've always thought it to be. And once I started to realize these things, like where the ego is, and these are questions that I really need to delve into in order to truly flesh out my attitudes and my insecurities behind my own self. But it's something that I'm extremely interested in, and I'm coming at death now, I think, with a different angle than I did previously. And this angle is one of letting go of my sense of self. And I've done, and this is something that is preached in meditation, as I am extremely interested in, and that is, it goes hand in hand. I mean, meditation is equally a part of meditation, spirituality, presence. It is all equally a part of this conversation as any other piece of this conversation can be a part of. It's all there. It's not separate. As death and meditation and mindfulness and presence and ego, and it is all one and the same, and it all connects. And so, as meditation being something that I am extremely interested in, and I want to dive more into every day, I really am trying to come at death now with a perspective that will really enlighten me and disillusion my sense of fear with death. And I really am curious to see where this goes, and I am very interested in the ways in which diving into this topic can be extremely beneficial for me. And I know that everybody has countless things to work on and countless mental struggles and physical struggles and situational tribulations that are very difficult, and I'm this is but one of a many group of difficulties in my life that I'm dealing with, and I think it is such a salient piece of what I'm of my life that I deal with as well. So it seems to me to be one of the aspects of life in which I should be extremely engaged with on a daily basis, and just now with a alternate perspective on it, because whether I like it or not, I try to decouple myself from this idea of death every day, and I decouple myself from the sense that I know it's always there, but I'm not going to think about it right now, or I'm not going to think about it in the sense that I am actually. So it's like this weird dichotomy of me being very engaged with death, but not being truthful with it, and that's I think that is really a piece of what I need to really sort out within my own self, that death is not something that I need to struggle with as much as I do struggle with it, and I have to always remind myself that in anything that I'm not alone in this, and that death is something that is extremely, or can be extremely terrifying for so many people. And I include myself in the cohort of people that have this tremendous difficulty overcoming this concept of non-existence and what that means, and it is something that I really am curious and attentive to. I really want to dive into this as much as I can in a new way, with a new vantage point, with a new lens for me to really grapple with some of the difficulties that I've been wrestling with, and to put a flag in the distance of this conversation in which to aim for. I'm coming to understand that I need to know more about the ego, and where my sense of self comes from, and how I aim for this, or I sense this part of me, this part of my existence that is so caught up in one thing or the next thing, or this idea that I am something, but there's actually nothing there, and it is extremely elusive, and for good reason, because we have been so ingrained with this idea that there is a self, and that there is this person, this inner homunculus that operates within our own brain and pulls the strings and moves the hands and does the work in which you think you're doing. But in actuality, when you start to dive into these things, when you start to, through the practice of meditation and through the practice of learning about your spiritual self and about modes of operation in which the universe acts under, and psychedelics and all of these different avenues in which you can become more enlightened to your sense that there's something that we are not privy to most of the time, and that sense of something that you're not privy to is your ego, that it doesn't exist, and it is extremely fascinating to uncover that there's something deeper within yourself and within everyone, that there's more to it. There's more to this. There's more to this game of existence that meets our current perception of what is actually in front of us, and through that, it's very, very indescribable and something that really needs to be felt and understood and delved into in order to gain any sort of clarity and on this topic. And I think the point of my journal here is that the ego and death are something that I really need to start understanding more, and I'm very excited to learn about where this goes and how my sense of self is so connected and is really in parallel with non-existence and our fear of it. So that is really, there's a lot to get into, and this is not going to be something I dive into in extremis right now, but this is a good starting point for, I suppose, further self-inquiries on the podcast about where my mind is right now and where I want this podcast going in terms of my own thoughts and contemplation moving forward. So thanks for listening. I hope everyone's having a great day. I know I just went on a 20-minute long rant about death, but there's also other aspects to life than contemplating death, and I hope everyone's having a great day and that you're staying healthy and loving and cherishing the moments that we do have here, because this moment, this present moment that is right now, is all there is, and there's beauty in it, and there's so much out there that we need to focus on, that gives us so much happiness and so much fulfillment and so much gratitude towards life that we love. It's not all scary, it's not all terrifying, it's not all contemplation of non-existence, it's not all hatred and worries and anxiety and depression. It's not. It's beauty and it's love, and we need to pursue that as ardently as we can, and it's something that I try to maintain in myself as much as I personally can on a daily basis. So and I fall short of that every day, and I never do as much as I would like, and but I'm trying, and I get on myself about not doing enough, and I get on myself about not being enough, and I compare myself to other people, and comparison is the death of happiness. So, it's something that I'm working on as well. So, regardless, I hope you guys, if anything, at the end of this, get at least get something out of this, and the idea that we're all in this together, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter who you might be dealing with, or what situation is currently present in your life and which brings difficulty. It's okay. And it's okay to be struggling. It's okay to not have it all figured out. But know that if anyone is listening to this that does have my number, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be there as best as I can be. And if not me, reach out to somebody else who might, who has your trust. And there's always somebody out there for you. So have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.